Okay, we're turning our...
Sir, will you take a photo?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. May I have your attention, please? The ceremony will begin momentarily, so please take this opportunity to, yes, silence all mobile devices. And it is respectfully requested that everyone please remain silent through this ceremony. It is our desire to maintain an atmosphere of dignity and respect during this morning's ceremony, and your cooperation is greatly appreciated. And we will get started in just a moment. Okay, louder? There we go. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think I can sit down now. On behalf of the citizens of Concord and the welcome to the Old Bridge ceremony commemorating the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Concord. And thank you for joining us as we solemnly honor the memory of our forebears who bravely stood their ground at this hallowed site and fired what Ralph Waldo Emerson so eloquently phrased as the shot heard round the world. My name is Gary Clayton. I am co-chair of the Concord 250 Executive Committee, and I'm joined today by my fellow co-chair, Dr. Robert Monroe.
Thank you, Gary. Our presence here and the purpose of this ceremony is to recognize and pay tribute to the dedication and sacrifice of all those who fought for independence on April 19th, 1775. The establishment of a new nation and the values and aspirations embedded in our Constitution to preserve, protect, and expand the principles of self-governance, equality, and liberty for all people. At this time, I ask that you please rise for the invocation offered by W. Grant Pierce, a member of the Baha'i Local Spiritual Assembly, and remain standing for the playing of our national anthem by the Middlesex County Volunteers. These colors are presented this morning by the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry Regiment Select Honor Guard. According to our traditions, we respectfully request that those not in uniform please remove any hats and place your right hand over your hearts during the national anthem as the music is played.
Just over a century ago, Abdu'l-Baha, son of Baha'u'llah, founder of the Baha'i faith, walked upon this land. He saw in America a radiant promise and revealed this prayer for America. O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it is inspired in material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby the most glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations of the world. O God, this nation is worthy of thy favors and is deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy bounty and bestowal. Amen.
Thank you, Grant, and the Middlesex County Volunteers. Also joining us as a co-host of this morning's ceremony and representing the National Park Service is Superintendent Simone Monteleone, the Superintendent of the Minuteman National Park. Simone.
Good morning. It is my privilege to welcome you to Minuteman National Historical Park to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington and Concord and the opening of the American Revolution. This historic day marks not just a pivotal event in our nation's history, but an honoring of the spirit of liberty, courage, and determination that defines us as Americans. On April 19th of 1775, the clash of arms at Lexington and Concord and along the Battle Road signaled the dawn of a new era. It was in these fields that ordinary men stood resolutely, fueled by their commitment to the ideals of freedom, to face insurmountable odds. Their bravery ignited the flame of revolution and inspired a gathering of 13 colonies to rise in pursuit of independence from tyranny. As we reflect on those early morning hours, let us remember the courageous individuals who answered the call to defend their rights and their homes. These Minutemen and militia members, with their unmatched resolve, became symbols of resistance and self-sacrifice. Their actions that day forged a path toward liberty that would resonate for generations to come. Throughout this day, you'll witness various events in town, including tactical demonstrations and living history programming here at Minuteman National Historical Park that will pay tribute to our past and immerse you in the rich tapestry of our shared history as Americans. I encourage you to engage, ask questions, and reflect on the lessons we've learned from the past. As we commemorate this historic milestone, let us also recognize the enduring legacy of the ideals that guided those early patriots. The principles of liberty and freedom in America continue to inspire us today, reminding us that this work is never done and is work that us, as citizens of this great nation, we must continue. The National Park Service is honored, along with our partners, to preserve and protect these sacred places and hallowed ground. Together, we honor those sacrifices of who came before us by continuing to defend and uphold the values that we fought so dearly to secure, and protect the very places where it happened for this and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Monteleone. And I will add that the National Park Service has been a wonderful partner with us as part of the planning and actions regarding the Concord 250th celebrations. We are very fortunate today to have a number of distinguished visitors with us, and I want to mention their names. They are an important part of the ceremony. That includes U.S. Navy Captain Thomas Kelly. He's the 2025 Parade Marshal for this Patriots Day Parade in Concord. Captain Kelly is a recipient of the Medal of Honor. Here on the podium, Maura Healey, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Lori Trahan, member of the United States House of Representatives. Kim Driscoll, Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Mary Hartman, Chair of the Concord Select Board. Seiichiro Takahashi, Consul General of Japan in Boston. Mr. David Clay, British Consul General to New England. I also want to acknowledge two women who are with us today. Robin Abbott, who's president of the American Gold Star Mothers of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And Peggy Griffin, also president of the Greater Boston chapter of the New England region, chair, national board directors of the Gold Star Wives of America. Special welcome to both of you. I also want to acknowledge a number of our state legislative representatives who are here. State Senator Michael Barrett, State Representative Carmine Gentile, and State Representative Simon Cataldo. And I know there are other local elected officials of Concord and nearby communities participating in this this day of celebration, and we want to acknowledge and thank you for your service. I also want to welcome all the active duty members of the United States Armed Services and veterans who are present today. We wish to especially acknowledge the U.S. Army that maintains just over 30 units throughout the entire country with Revolutionary War lineage and honors. Among those, Massachusetts has the most of any state, including the only 4 units to display the Lexington campaign streamer for direct participation in the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19th, 1775. Those 4 units are represented here today by their commanding officers and colors. And in addition, there are 4 other U.S. Army units here today that together represent all the original Massachusetts militia organizations still serving today with Revolutionary War campaign credit.
It is now my honor to invite to the podium for her remarks the first of our 2 speakers, Representative Lori Trahan, who represents the Commonwealth's 3rd Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Good morning. 250 years ago, right here at the Old North Bridge, ordinary people faced an extraordinary choice: monarchy or democracy. They could remain subjects of a distant crown, or risk everything for the idea of self-government. They chose freedom. Farmers and blacksmiths, shopkeepers and ministers, teachers and mothers, everyday citizens who had no guarantee of success stood their ground. And when the smoke cleared on that April morning, the first shots of a revolution had been fired. What began here in Concord became the shot heard round the world. It was more than the start of a war. It was the beginning of an idea that liberty is worth defending, that government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed, that even the smallest towns and the smallest colonies could stir the conscience of the world. But it was never inevitable. The men and women who gathered here were not professional soldiers or political elites. They were neighbors and parents, workers and worshipers, people with families to protect, farms to tend, and lives to live. And yet, when the moment came, they answered history's call. Today, as we mark the 250th anniversary of that defining moment, we gather not just to honor their courage, but to reckon with the responsibility they left us. Because we are the stewards now. Every generation inherits the promise made here in Concord, and every generation must choose what echoes we will send forward. Will we echo courage or complacency? Unity or division? Will we, like those early patriots, rise together to meet the challenges of our time? Even our founders knew that the greatest threat to this fragile experiment wouldn't come from abroad. It would come from within. In fact, when George Washington agreed to attend the Constitutional Convention in 1787, he explained why in a letter to a friend. He warned of some aspiring demagogue who will not consult the interest of his country so much as his own ambitious views. Washington wasn't worried about the jeweled crowns of foreign kings. He was worried about the domestic ones, those who drape themselves in flags while declaring themselves above the Constitution. That remains our charge today, to ensure that in America, no one, no matter how loud, how wealthy, or how powerful, stands above the law. Because in a democracy, the law, not a single man is sovereign. Our union is still imperfect, our freedoms still tested. But the story of America has always been one of progress, not because the path was easy, but because courage found its way into common hands. In every generation, there have been bridges like this one in Concord, like the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, where brave Americans marched for civil rights and faced down brutality in the name of justice. Moments that demand to know who we are and what we stand for. So let us meet our moment today. Let us be citizens worthy of this history and ancestors worthy of remembrance. And let us ensure that 250 years from now, when future generations gather at this bridge, they won't just hear the echo of that first shot. They'll hear the echo of our voices rising to say, we carried the promise of a stronger America forward. Thank you. Now it is my great honor to introduce someone who carries that promise with purpose and pride every single day. She is a trailblazer, a dedicated public servant, and a tireless champion for the people of Massachusetts. Please join me in welcoming the governor of our great Commonwealth, Maura Healey.
Thank you, Congresswoman Trahan. Wow, what an amazing, amazing crowd here today, and I'm not the least bit surprised. To members of the Concord Select Board and Concord 250, to Gary, Clayton, and Rob Monroe, all of our state legislators, Senator Barrett, Rep. Cataldo, Rep. Gentile, Sheriff Katusian. We have many in the military here today. I want to thank in particular General Keefe, our National Guard Adjutant General, as well as generals who've joined us, General Johnson, General Brito, General Dunn, service members, veterans, military families, including our Gold Star wives and mothers, our Medal of Honor recipient, John McLuhan, our Superintendent Monteleone, and all of the members of the National Park Service who work so hard every single day. Our allies and friends, Consul General David Clay, our friends from England, Japan, and all of the people of Massachusetts, of America, and the world who have gathered here today to mark this seminal event in world history. 250 years ago, on this site, at about this time in the morning, farmers, merchants, tradesmen of Concord and nearby towns faced the mighty army of an empire. They stood up for the right to govern themselves, and they stepped forward to protect their community. Here across the North Bridge, they were fired upon. They returned fire with what Ralph Waldo Emerson described as the shot heard round the world. And they began a revolution that gave us our nation. The courage of ordinary people who fought here is awe-inspiring. But there was more than individual bravery on display. There was collective determination, a unity of purpose and will, and a deep, widely shared belief in the cause of liberty. Two riders set out from Boston, Paul Revere and William Dawes, to raise the alarm. When the Redcoats got to Lexington, they were met by 75 militia members. When they got to Concord, 400 men had mustered. By the time they finished their retreat to Boston, 4,000 had attacked their lines. In the following days, 20,000 gathered to begin the siege of Boston, fight the Battle of Bunker Hill, and eventually win the war for independence. They came from across our state, from New Hampshire, Connecticut as well. Members of the Stockbridge Muncie Band of Mohegans walked 137 miles, nearly the length of Massachusetts, to join the Continental troops in Cambridge. Black and Indigenous soldiers fought for a freedom they would long be denied. Women were vital as spies and strategists. Everyone played their part. I think of the 71-year-old widow, Martha Moulton of Concord, who took a revolutionary stand. You know, that morning as the British troops burned the militia's supplies, Martha Moulton watched as the fire spread to the town meeting house. She was undaunted, this 71-year-old widow, and went right up to the British troops, confronted them, and convinced them to form a bucket brigade and put out the fire they had started. In the end, the commitment was absolute, and Massachusetts rose up together as one, and a new nation forged in defense of freedom saw itself take shape. In Massachusetts, we take deep pride in the role our state and people have played in America's great journey. The spirit that burned bright right here in Concord never faded. At every moment, we've answered the call for liberty and advanced the cause of freedom, leading the abolitionist movement to resist and end slavery, leading the movement for women's suffrage, First in education, first in healthcare, first in civil rights and equality under the law. That's who we are, Massachusetts. John Hancock, Sam Adams, the first and fourth governors of our state, were present in Lexington on the night these events began. They might be surprised to see a woman standing here as the 73rd governor and a woman representing us in Congress. But maybe not, because they had the conviction to put freedom at the heart of their endeavor. And freedom is a force that once kindled can never be denied. In Massachusetts, we have always lit the beacon. We've always answered the alarm. We have always stood our ground, and we always will. That is the legacy of this hallowed place. This is who we are. And now is the time to honor and fulfill that legacy. We live in a moment when our freedoms are once again under attack, including from the highest office in the land. We see things that would be familiar to our revolutionary predecessors: the silencing of critics, the disappearing of people from our streets, demands for unquestioning fealty. Due process is a foundational right. If it can be discarded for one, it can be lost for all. The right to speak freely without fear of punishment is the essence of liberty. A free press and an independent court are the lifeblood of a healthy democracy. These are the freedoms that America was built on. These are the freedoms that make America great. These are the rights that the people in Massachusetts exercise when they use their talents to cure diseases, to heal the environment, to build businesses, to improve the human life and condition. They were won. They were fought for by brave men and women who stood on this very ground 250 years ago today, who put their lives on the line here at the North Bridge and on the Green in Lexington. They were protected by brave service members and advanced by courageous men and women throughout our history, and they are ours to defend now. We must take a warning from John Adams, who said, "Liberty once lost is lost forever." And we must take courage from Coretta Scott King, who said, "Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation." This is our generation's time. Standing here in this place at this moment, we must commit ourselves to defending it. That's what I will do, and I encourage everyone who knows our history and values our freedom to do the same. Stay engaged, stand up, speak out, as the people of Massachusetts did 250 years ago. Together, we will protect the freedoms that were won here, and we will not be intimidated. In Massachusetts, we must be, we will be the champions of freedom once more. Not just because it's rooted in our past, part of our DNA, but because it's alive in our hearts, and it is our hope for our future. It's what we owe to those who came before us here in Concord, and it's what we owe to generations of Americans to come. God bless you, God bless Massachusetts, and God bless the great United States of America.
Thank you, Governor. The wreath-laying ceremony is a formal remembrance to honor the sacrifices of those who unselfishly offered the last full measure of devotion in the service of our country. This morning, we gather to remember those Minutemen who answered the Commonwealth's call to arms at this very location 250 years ago today. We also acknowledge the United Kingdom as one of our closest allies in the modern era and pay tribute to the dedicated service of those British soldiers who fell in action and are interred here. Two wreaths will be placed this morning. The first by Governor Healey and Major General Keefe at the base of the Minuteman statue. The second wreath will be placed at the grave of the British soldiers by Mr. David Clay, British Consul General to New England. He will be accompanied by Major Douglas Edwards and Peter Richardson of the British Officers Club of New England. Immediately following this wreath-laying ceremony, the Concord and Acton Minutemen will fire a musket volley salute from the North Bridge. The Concord Independent Battery. The Concord Independent Battery in the U.S. Army 101st Field Artillery Regiment will now fire a 21-gun national salute to the United States of America. This will be immediately followed in sequence by the 54th Massachusetts playing taps, a moment of silence, and an F-15 and KC-46 flyover performed by the Massachusetts National Guard's 104th Fighter Wing, accompanied by the New Hampshire National Guard's 157th Air Refueling Wing. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the benediction by W. Grant Pierce.
O thou loving and merciful Lord, we gather in gratitude upon this sacred ground where brethren once stood opposed, not as eternal enemies, but as children of one humanity, drawn into the trials of history in pursuit of freedom. From that moment of sacrifice, a new nation was born, and over time, former foes became steadfast and friends, joined in the cause of peace and mutual understanding. O Lord, let this be a sign for this day, that from division may rise unity, and from struggle, the promise of harmony. Bless this gathering and this land. Strengthen the bonds of fellowship. Guide its leaders with justice and mercy, and awaken in every heart the will to serve humanity. Thou verily art the unifier, the ever-forgiving, the light of the world. Amen.
My fellow Americans, this concludes the Old North Bridge ceremony. On behalf of the citizens of Concord and the Concord 250 Executive Committee, Rob and I thank you very much for attending in person and virtually. The parade will now resume under the direction of the parade marshal and the Concord 250 Executive Committee. We ask all spectators to please allow the parade to pass without obstruction up the path to Monument Street as it returns to Concord Center and past the reviewing stand in Monument Square. Please enjoy our full day of planned festivities in remembrance of the 250th anniversary of this historic Battle of Concord. Thank you.